We are back, another installment of Music, Movies, and Hoops interviews. We are trying to grow this brand, so please, if you're enjoying this interview tonight, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. I am so ecstatic. This is a real treat for me. Today I have Mr. Jaime Ospina. He is the lead singer for the Black Fred Award-winning, ACL-performing, absolutely electric Colombian funk ensemble, Superfonicos. Jaime, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much for having me, for giving me this opportunity to share a little bit of my thoughts and my life and my experience with the people on the internet.
I love your music. We haven't met before, but I'm so thrilled to connect with you in this way and for you to come on this platform. This is a real joy for me. You're eating some peaches. I hope that you're getting fueled up and feeling comfortable.
Yes, totally.
So, Jaime, I want to start here. It's COVID, and that has been difficult, and I want to talk about what that's meant for you. You shared with me that you are recording music, solo music. You have a new song called Dawning, which you performed most of the instruments on. I listened to it today. I loved it. Tell me a little about why you've been drawn to this music and what you're trying to get out of it.
Well, I've been in love with American music for pretty much forever, especially for the African American expressions, which means all the way from work songs, acoustic blues, electric blues,
Yes.
R&B, soul, funk, jazz, you name it. It's something that really gets to me, and I've been listening to this music for so much time, and so it's really ingrained in me, and then there's so much connections between American music and Colombian music, way more connections than what people actually realize. At certain point, there was time where Cuban music and American music got blended together, and with Chano Pozo and Dizzy Gillespie, and then salsa. It's actually an American invention. Salsa wasn't born in Latin America. Salsa was born in New York.
I'm learning already.
Yes, salsa it's an American baby. From all the Latin American immigrants that were living in New York, but it was born in America. Salsa was born in America, and then Brazilians with Stan Getz and Tom Jobim. So
Yes,
there's been a strong connection between Brazilian music and American music as well. And Colombia, it's been the forbidden country for years. With all these background that we have in terms of civil war in Colombia and all the violence that has happened in Colombia, and Pablo Escobar and all the cocaine that came from Colombia to the States in the 80s. We are kind of the outlaws of South America. But I'm convinced that the connection between Colombian music, Afro-Colombian music, and African American music it's even stronger than with Cuba and Brazil, and that might be a reason why Superfonicos is resonating on an easier way on the American audience. Because there's a lot of funk in Afro-Colombian music, and the patterns are super related. If you go to the nitty-gritty of the rhythms and and the feeling, it's there. There's a lot of rock in Afro-Colombian stuff. So yes, now Superfonicos, it's been the place where I can just experiment with what I know about Colombian music and the more up-tempo, funky, party kind of music, American music.
Oh, totally.
Yes, but I have a huge, lounge, more intimate, more quiet, more relaxed connection with like jazz and ballads. Basically, Dawning, that is the album that I've been working on. It's like the space that I'm finding to express that part of my musicality that I wouldn't take to a Superfonicos party, to a Superfonicos concert. And so that's it. So there's like a lot of like modal jazz. That track that I just show you, it has like a lot of like kind of blue.
Yes, it's exactly what I was going to say.
Strong influence. Miles Davis is a huge influence for me, and Colombian music is modal. So melodically speaking, there's like a strong connection there.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it's basically like a wink to kind of blue, but at the same time it has like a West African kind of like element to it, and there's like shakers there that definitely connect with like South America. So that I feel like that's what my whole musical career it's been about, is like showing connections and creating bridges between music and just like bringing things from different worlds and just like putting them together, and pretty much that's Dawning. Actually, I just released the third single.
Okay. I'll show the link when I post this interview.
Absolutely, and pretty much that's the only way that musicians have right now to make a little income with music.
So, Jaime, do you think you would have put the time into recording this music if it wasn't for COVID, or is this a response to not being able to do some of your other work?
I mean, everything happens for a reason, and they're like, I have so much melodies and so much material on my computer that it's been just like there sitting. And then COVID came, and then the entire agenda for Superfonicos for 2020 got canceled. And then I was like a lot of the time here at home, and I just need to create. Like I can just like stay. I mean, if I don't create, then I get sick and I get grumpy and I get, like it's just something that I need to keep on doing. And then I was like, okay, there's no rehearsal with Superfonicos. There's no gig with Superfonicos. We got the grant from Black Fred to record the album.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. But that was kind of like on a standby. And I was like, okay, what can I do? And I have a bunch of friends all over the world. I have friends in Barcelona, in Madrid, in New York, in Bogota. I have friends in and great musicians. So what I've been doing is just like I shoot the melody to someone, and then to especially musicians that I love and I admire greatly. Mm-hmm. So for example, one of the songs that it's right now on mixing, that is called Soledad. Soledad is the Spanish for solitude. I just sent the melody to David Polkingham, guitar player, amazing guitar player. And I was like, hey, here's this melody. You want to put some colors on? And then he was like, you bet. And then in 2 days, he was like sending me like a guitar track with chords for the melody. And then I sent that to a friend in Bogota. He's like an amazing bass player. And I was like, here's the guitar and the melody. You want to put the bass on? And he just like put the bass on. And then I recorded the percussion. And then I have this friend in New York that plays requinto, that is like a soprano guitar. Mm-hmm. And he put some of that, and he is mixing the track. And that's going to be the fourth single that I'm going to be sharing with the people on this like effort that is called Dawning.
So this is so wonderful. I love this story, and it's a story of COVID resilience, of you not letting this pandemic stop you from collaborating, stop you from connecting with musicians, and stop you from creating. I'm in a similar boat. My band in Austin is called American Dreamer, and all our stuff has been canceled. And I'm just like you, Jaime. I've been recording in my home, in this office where I am right now, and trying to involve people, getting people to play drums and sing and doing all that. I think it's great that we're involving people. My understanding is that on the song Dawning, you played a lot of the instruments. It's according to the bio, it says you played percussion, bass, piano, and guitar. Is that true?
Yes.
So that's awesome. So you're a multi-instrumentalist, as am I. I think what I love most about being a multi-instrumentalist is that each instrument is like a piece of a puzzle.
Yes.
Because it's not your only contribution to the song, you don't need to get out all your ideas or all your moment in the sun with that one part. Everything can serve the song. Do you feel similarly, or do you have a different process?
No, it's pretty much like that. I'm far from being a virtuoso piano player, but if you have a sense of rhythm and you know where are the notes, you can just like lay chords on a beautiful way, and sometimes that's all the song needs. You know?
Yes, I do.
Sometimes that's all the song needs, like chords, put it there like on a tasteful, rhythmic way, and then if it sounds right, then that's it. That's all you need.
If it feels right, go with that feeling. Trust that.
Yes, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Tell us about your home setup and about your process when you're going through tracking these individual instruments.
I have a very simple setup. I have my computer, my MacBook Pro. I have a Motu interface, and I have, a couple of mics, the same mic that I use with Superfonicos. It's no fancy mics or anything. And I have a shit ton of instruments. Yeah, I have the drum set, I have 3 congas, I have 3 djembes, I have bass, I have electric guitar, acoustic guitar, and flutes. I mean, so many flutes and shakers. And so that's it. I was like, okay, what can I do with what I have right now? And that's what I've been doing.
Awesome.
Just like, and then I was looking for a concept. And I feel that what is happening right now for us as a humankind, we are on a cocoon. We are like a butterfly before coming out. We are like, this whole COVID thing got us like on a cage, and we are morphing, we are transforming, and it's painful.
Yes.
And then at a certain point, we're going to try to get out of the cocoon, and it's not going to be easy. Yes. Because we're going to be different, and because we're going to have wings. So I know it sucks. I know that in many ways, but at the same time, it needed to happen. And if it's happening, it's for a reason. So for me, it's like my way to approach this whole thing on a positive way. Like when the baby is forming inside the womb,
Yes.
It's the same. For everybody out of the mom, the baby, it's coming to life. But for the baby that it's about to come, it's like dying. He's dying as a fetus to become a baby.
Perspective.
The chrysalid, how you say?
Chrysalis?
The chrysalis is dying to become a butterfly. It's dead and dying and coming to life. It's just like, 2 parts of the same thing. So, and in the same way, when the dawning, it's basically the night dying into the new day.
Jaime, do you have any, just curious, I wasn't planning to ask you this, but do you have any predictions for what, either good or bad, for how things will be different when we get through this?
I can say that we're not going to get over this with a big amount of death. And if there's people dying on the States, where like everything is kind of like monitored, and like, you know, there's like, I mean, the amount of death that is happening right now in the rest of the world that we don't know about, it's crazy. And but it's not in CNN, it's not in Fox News. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because somehow the first world finds the way to kind of like, you know, this is not happening, but it's happening. It's happening, and it's happening in Colombia. The situation is getting worse and worse, and not only the people dying out of the virus, but the people that is in a lot of desperation, because a big percentage of Colombians survive on a day-by-day basis. They don't think about saving. They don't think about what's going to happen in 1 month. They don't think about, no, they wake up and they just like go out and find a way to make the money so they can buy lunch, and then they have lunch, and then they go after lunch and find a way to make money for dinner and breakfast, and repeat.
It's not day to day, it's meal to meal.
It's meal to meal. Yes. And so for that people, being in lockdown, it's just like, it's killing them. It's killing them. And I feel that when you have to see your kids, when you can't provide for your kids for that meal, that drives you crazy. So my fear is there's gonna be like a massive like social explosion in the developed countries. I mean, that's what I'm really predicting. And it's gonna be bad, and it's gonna be bad. I mean, I really like preparing for really bad news coming from Colombia anytime in the next 6 months. But that's the way it has to go, you know. It's not that way, that's the way it has to go, but that's what's going to happen, especially in those countries where the government is being neglecting the people for 200 years. I mean, as long as Colombia it's been a country, the people that rules the country have been neglecting 50%, 60% of the population.
Wow.
So sooner or later, you know, and this is just gonna trigger so much stuff, economically speaking, like, and it's gonna be bad for America as well. And the thing is that all these countries in Latin America, they are so dependent on America's health. You know, if America's healthy and America is like buying natural resources, and if the economy, the American economy is like booming,
yes,
then it's fine. But if whenever this country gets like in a really, really bad recession, those countries down there are gonna really feel it on a major way.
Wow.
So, but the night is gonna get super dark, and then the dawning is gonna happen. That's what I think.
Yeah. I mean, that was so heavy and real, and I appreciate you sharing this insight. This is the most serious that these interviews have gotten so far, and I really appreciate it. I'm taking in every word you're saying. You seem like a positive, hopeful person. Can you, to kind of bring this around, can you say anything about what that dawning might look like, or what some positive repercussions from this upheaval may come? I mean, you're talking about how the Colombian government has ignored a lot of the population for centuries, is what I'm hearing from you. Is there a possibility that out of all this pain and sorrow, that could get addressed?
I think the systems are going to fall. That's what I think.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think at certain point there's so much inertia on like corrupted systems that they're not going to change. There's going to be like a major collapse, and systems are going to collapse, and then we're going to just like rebuild from it. And I feel like the rebuilding is going to happen in the countryside.
Okay.
I think at certain point it's going to get really hard to live in the cities, and the entire cities as a system are going to kind of like crumble, and then the only way to survive is going to be to just like run away from the cities. And I feel that the dawning is going to happen back in the only way is to reconnect with the earth. That's the way I think. It's the only way out. We've been so detached from nature for so long. We've been neglecting our natural selves for so long. And I feel like if something good's gonna come from this, is that the only way to survive is going to, go back to basics. And I've talked with a lot of like musician friends, like, we don't want it to go back to normal. Like normal sucked for us as creators, I mean, do you really want to go to the way it used to be? Like,
I don't.
Yeah, I was doing music full time and most days wanting to break down into tears.
Yes. I mean, and there are like so many like essential people for society that it's been underpaid and mistreated and underestimated for years. Teachers, to start with.
Yes.
And I was a teacher for 15 years before moving to Austin. And you always feel like I'm not getting paid enough for what I'm doing for this, So, so many things are so wrong that if they're going to collapse and they're going to crumble, even if the process of crumbling is going to be like super painful and it's going to bring like a lot of death, it's worth it. Because I don't think we were going on the right direction as a humankind.
We are in lockstep. I had multiple conversations with my father, and what we agreed is the world's never going back to where it was. Now, the world was broken before, and in a place that was not equitable and not fair, and a lot of people around the world were suffering. So we needed to make changes. There's going to be a lot of suffering through that journey, but to your point, if we can come out of this and create a more equitable world, that's something I can get behind and will want to suffer through, because what we had before was not sustainable for our planet, for our people, for everyone on this green and blue spinning orb.
Totally. I totally agree with you.
Jaime, I wanted to run something by you. Do you know the band Tame Impala?
Yes.
Okay, big fan. Totally different than Superfonicos, but some similar energy, gives me a similar feeling. I listened to a podcast with Kevin Parker. He just put out a new album this year, and he said he does all his music, everything he does by himself. He plays all the instruments, he records it alone, he actually even mixes it and masters it himself. And he was talking about, it was super interesting, he was talking about how before doing this album, he was doing a bunch of collaborations. And he was in the studio with Travis Scott or with Lady Gaga or whoever, and it was a party. People were drinking, smoking, hanging out, up late, making music together. And that when he found himself transitioned to this solo project and it's just back to him alone in his studio trying to self-motivate, he had hard getting the vibe going. And sometimes he'd like pour himself a whiskey or try and, turn it up to get that energy back. So to kind of bring this around to a question, what is it like for you now that you're alone and making this music? Is it fun for you? Do you find it kind of lonely? Do you find it hard to self-motivate? Is it easy for you to make? What is your experience?
I mean, a lot of my time it's parenting.
Okay.
And cooking for the family. I've been cooking a lot.
Love that.
And now I start a job as a teacher on this wonderful elementary school, private school called Moonbridge.
Awesome.
So I've been kind of like bringing back my teacher.
Okay.
So it's been really very tiny portions of time.
Okay.
So I can afford to, whenever I have the time, I just like go for it. And you gotta go.
Yeah. My kid's sleeping. Everyone's fed. I got 2 hours. I got to knock out the bass.
Pretty much.
Yes.
Pretty much. But I'm just like allowing myself to go at the speed that the life allows me.
I think that's so important with everything.
With everything. It's kind of like, it's like a surrounding surrendering exercise.
Letting the current take you.
Yes, don't fight the current. At this,
Yes.
I think in this moment, I was talking with my great friend Greg Gonzalez, bass player for Grupo Fantasma. At a certain point, and because we're gonna be doing some collaboration with him.
Awesome.
And I was telling him that sometimes, some days, gets like just hard. And then he told me something that really stick to my mind. That is like, every day is a ritual.
Thank you for that.
Every day is a ritual. Every second is precious. Be present. If you're gonna be cooking for the family, be there. Put all your love in every second that you are cooking for the family. If you have time to make an interview, commit yourself wholeheartedly to it. Whenever you're gonna record a melody because you are working on a track, just like put yourself 100% on it. And in the end, it's not about like having a shit ton of time. It's just like have the little time that you have, just like really be there, be mindful, and just like do the best you can.
Thank you for that. That was beautiful, man. That was gorgeous. That's really, really wonderful. So let's talk about Superfonicos for a sec. Let's get caught up. In June, you released a single, El Adios. I love it. Congratulations. It's fantastic. I'm sure you, like me, although you are at a different level, had a wonderful slew of gigs and events and everything on the slate for 2020. It's not happening. Give us a sense of where the band's at and what is next for you guys.
El Adios we record with Jim Eno on December. So it was like, and then around the same time, we get the grant from Black Fred. We were like super excited. COVID came, and then it was just like, boom, like from 100 miles per hour to 0 in a second. Bah! Stay there.
Oh, it makes me sad, man.
Yes, because we were running. I mean, the band was getting a lot of traction.
It was happening. It is happening. And I'm excited for you guys, and it's well-deserved.
Yes. So for a couple of months, we didn't even talk. I just like called Nico. I just like, tried to contact them. And then at a certain point, I was like, guys, we have that recording from Jim. Let's release it. Let's put it out there.
Yes.
And then that happened. And then we have this new song that is super relevant for this time of like politics, that is called Rapiña. Rapiña is basically rapine.
Okay.
It's really on your face for corrupted politicians. We really want to make a statement, which we just want to get it out, get all this like resentment that we feel towards corrupted politicians, and that I feel like 100% of the humankind, because this is like this whole corruption and politics is happening everywhere.
Yes.
In Ukraine, in Russia, in Belarus, in Colombia, it's everywhere. It's like a pandemic. You know what I mean?
I do.
For me, it's a pandemic. So we just like start getting together again. Just Nico, the bass player, Nick Toso, the percussion player, Danny, that is the drummer, and me. And we really want to get this song going because we really want to release it as soon as possible.
Are you doing social distance rehearsals?
Pretty much as possible.
Outside, or what do you do?
No, we're going to space.
Okay. Got it.
where we in the big rooms in space.
Yep.
Which is like super hard because we are very loving and we love each other so much, and we really wanna, put our hearts together and give each other a hug, and we can't, which sucks. And
we need it more than ever, right?
Yes, more than ever. Yes. Absolutely. Yes. So, but we are starting to get together and, get what we say, like putting the soup in the stove.
One of my favorite things about your group is the arrangements. They're so rich, they're so textured, all these rhythms combining. I love it. I would love for you to tell me about your writing process. How do you develop these songs? How do they become the final product that we hear?
The main writers are Nico, the bass player, and me.
Yep.
I have the advantage that I have a little experience on producing. So a lot of times I just like put the arrangement together in the computer, and I bring the computer to the rehearsals, and I show them the basic parts, and then we just like get it together. And sometimes there's like some input from Evan, the keyboard player. He's incredible in terms of like the understanding of harmony, and like he has an amazing sense of like arrangement. And so the main input is from me or Nico in terms of like the melodies, the main horn parts, the lyrics, and the rhythms.
You're coming with all that written? You're figuring all that out?
I mean, a lot of the times, yes.
Wow. Okay, so you're doing a lot of the arranging and producing before you walk in.
Before I walk in, yes.
Wow. Okay.
Yes. Like I have a strong sense of like how rhythms can work, how especially the drum part and the hand drum part can like match together.
Yes.
And then if that's strong enough, then the bass just like comes naturally, and then I have like an idea of the harmonies and the chords. Melodies come to me extremely easy. I don't consider myself a composer. I consider myself more like a melody
maker. I do.
I'm more like a melody maker.
Yeah.
That's the way I think about myself. So, and then there's always like room during rehearsals to just like, listen to the grooves. Sometimes you have that really strong groove happening, and then if you tune yourself and you just like go to that like mindful place where you just like put your mind away, the melodies come through you. That happens to me a lot.
Lucky you. It's a gift.
Yes, it's a gift. Yes. It's a gift, but at the same time, the more melodies you listen and the more you find a way to listen to them and sing them, the more they just like start, getting ingrained in your brain. And then
it's like a muscle. It's like training a muscle and letting it grow.
Training a muscle. When I was teaching, I remember doing these like relaxation activities with my kids, and I was like telling them, like, I just like made them lay on the floor, close their eyes, and then I start talking, and I was like, the whole idea was like, I'm gonna play music. At a certain point, whenever I stop talking, I want you to imagine that every note that you're listening, it's coming through your ears to your inner self, and your inner self is like a field of fertile soil, and each of those notes is like a seed that is gonna fall in that soil, and it's gonna become a tree that is gonna have its own flowers. So somehow, every time that you listen to music, you're building your own spiritual musical garden, if you want. And your garden, it's completely different from mine, because no two human beings have heard the same music. So, and finding that uniqueness, and then I say, like, now that all those trees are growing and that those flowers are like popping out, now you're going to imagine that you are an eagle and that you can go and see that garden from you know,
Yeah.
from the sky. And
Whoa, Jaime! You are a deep soul, my friend. Good God. I need to hire you to be my sensei. And it reminds me a little, man, my senior year of college, we opened a jazz building and Stevie Wonder came and was given an award. In his acceptance speech, he said, I didn't write a single note of my songs. God gave me every note. And I am just so grateful that I was chosen to be the conduit of this music that has brought so much joy and healing to so many people.
that's so beautiful.
I do think if you can have kind of clear the clouds of your mind and your soul and be calm and listen, that's how things will come to you.
Yes, it's in the end, it's not you, it's the absence of you.
Amen.
Yes,
Amen to
you
that.
just create the emptiness. And I think the flutes are like a beautiful, like a beautiful metaphor of it, because if the flute is not completely, if
Yes.
there's no emptiness on the flute, then the sound is not gonna come out. It's not you. It's just something through you. And Keith Richards, it's another musician that talks about that.
Mm-hmm.
He says, just like become like an antenna.
Yes.
Like
Antenna.
Like
Yes.
like a receptor.
Yes.
Of course, if you have your monkey mind there all the time and you're like, okay, I'm gonna make this melody so my musician friends realize how awesome I am, then whatever comes, it's not gonna be a real thing.
Yes.
It never happens to me that I just like sit with a pencil and okay, I'm gonna write a melody.
Right.
No. Sometimes, for
Right.
example, this song that I told you that I'm gonna release in as soon as possible, Soledad. I was literally washing dishes.
Yes.
Washing the dishes after lunch. And this melody came. And I was like, okay, I like that. And sometimes it's just like a 2-measure motive.
Yes.
That starts the whole thing. And then like kind of like you just like gotta let those 2 measures to bring the next 2 and then the next 2 and then without even trying, you just like have a 16-measure melody.
We are so similar. The song I just finished yesterday, it started because I was washing my hands in the bathroom and a melody came to me. And fortunately, now in 2020, we're fortunate to have our phones. You can immediately make the voice memo. Thank God. So I make it right away because I know I could lose it. And then weeks later, I picked up the guitar and found the chords. Weeks later, I wrote lyrics. But that one moment was what I like to call the seed. I think all songs need a seed. I'm curious if you could say the number one thing. What is the number one thing you miss the most about not getting to have this be a normal year?
Bringing joy to the people.
Good answer.
You just get pleasure out of giving pleasure to the people.
Yes. Yes.
And bringing joy to the people. And yes, that I miss the most. Like to see the people there, like enjoying and dancing and having fun and jumping and letting it out. And I don't know, I just like miss that. I miss that,
Yes.
I miss the sweat on the people.
Yeah.
And that's something that I love about Austin is that
Yeah.
concerts get sweaty and you can see the sweat right there and you are sweating and it's just, you just feel alive.
My band is much more intimate. We play folk music, acoustic music, and we're best in a house concert environment. And I think we bring something out of people, something very reflective and thoughtful. Your band is so joyful and so electric and alive. And I've been watching videos of you guys and seeing the audiences respond in the way you're talking about. And I'm just kind of jealous. I imagine everything you're saying is so true. And getting to bring out maybe, you know, instead of the tear with the breakup song, the joy of the kinetic music must be really fun.
Yes, but I really enjoy that other part. That's why Dunning is coming the way it's coming, because
Right, and I heard that in your other music.
Jaime, I want to ask you this, and you touched on this earlier with the upcoming Superfonicos single, which is addressing political corruption. But I wanted to dig into that a little bit deeper. On your website, you say, quote, telegraphing the politics of peace and unity from the stage to your ears. I was wondering if you could unpack that for a little bit and tell me about how your band embodies and shares that message.
we are very strong believers that the people, it's always going to be stronger than the politics. That the people, it's always going to find a way to survive the politics. You know, Germany survived Hitler, and the Soviet Union survived Stalin, and you know, we as the people, we are way more stronger, powerful, wise, and loving than the mobsters that rule humankind right now. Because honestly, that's what I feel. That's why politicians are so afraid of musicians, of real musicians.
Yes.
Because we are all about unity. We are all about getting people together, getting people feeling as they are a whole. When love drives, then things flourish and, you know, and happen on a natural way, and they're self-sustainable, and you are not harming anybody, and whatever comes from a loving space, it's always gonna find a way to thrive. Whatever is not coming from that space, sooner or later is going to implode and collapse. So that's pretty much what we're doing with Superfonicos. It's like bring, you know, joy and unity and positive, and it's hard, but we're gonna get through it, and siempre pa'lante, always move forward. If you listen to all our lyrics, and that's one of the things that I really want to do is to like start like translating the lyrics so people can go in the webpage and really understand what we're like singing about. Suelta is basically, you know, let go. That's what I'm always acting.
Yeah, I love the song, but I didn't know what it meant. I mean, I don't speak Spanish.
Yes, suelta, it's basically let go.
Okay, cool.
It's a song about detachment, letting go of like old mind frames. And yes, you go through our entire catalog, and it's Merecumbe. It's all about like, you know, if things get really hard in your life, just like dance and move it, shake it.
You're from Colombia, first generation, born and raised. Tell us about your musical upbringing.
Well, I have a father that was deeply in love with music. He was a musician himself. Like he was never a professional musician, but he was the kind of guy that can like sit on the piano and like figure out melodies and chords.
Yeah.
Super knowledgeable about the whole European tradition of music. So every Saturday morning, I remember waking up and listening to something, Mozart or Beethoven or Rachmaninoff or Ravel or Debussy or opera. There was always, especially European music happening in the house when I grew up. When I was in 9th grade, we put together this like band, and I actually was a singer there.
Yeah,
I actually started singing. That's how I started
your band in 9th grade.
When I was in 9th grade, we're talking 1987. And then I graduated, and then I started playing bass with my friends from my school. And I was like a bass player for a long time. And then I got in this like very successful blues and rock band. And I was like a bass player for this like rock band for some years. And then I went to Cuba and I lived in La Habana in Cuba for 9 months.
Okay.
At the same time that a bunch of Colombians were like living there and learning music in La Habana, because it was the only really affordable thing for us in Colombia was like La Habana, and the music education in Cuba was pretty amazing. So I spent 9 months there, and that's where I learned to play piano. And then Cuba just like gave me a huge slap on the face, in the sense that I was like a totally ignorant about the music of my country.
Oh, wow.
And so then I went back to Colombia in 99, and I was like, I need to learn. I need to go and find my Muddy Waters. I need to go and find my John Lee Hooker. I need to go and find my Louis Armstrong. And then pretty much from 99 all the way to 2001, I was backpacking the Caribbean coast of my country, looking for the old maestros from the countryside tradition.
Oh, you did it. You went on a journey quest to find the music.
Yes. I just like made a backpack. We're talking 1999, beginning of first half of 1999. I moved to Barranquilla, that is like one of the main cities in the Caribbean coast, and I started like meeting all maestros, tamboreros and composers and melody makers and gaita players. And then I went back in 2000 and I studied for 3 weeks with this amazing maestro that he just passed, Catalino Parra. And then, yes, I mean, I went to the source.
Wow.
And I learned from them.
Yeah. Wow. I'm sure that you learned a ton of songs and techniques and chord progressions. Beyond that, what were some of the big picture wisdom or, concepts that you took away from that experience?
I mean, the beauty of those maestros, is that they don't even try and they teach you.
Yeah.
Whenever somebody comes to you and tells you like, okay, I am a maestro and I'm going to teach you, sit down and listen. I don't believe in that, because the greatest lessons in life I've got from these old maestros in Bogota, just like sitting. And they can be silent they are not afraid of silence. We get so afraid of silence, and whenever there's so much silence, we get uncomfortable and we feel like we need to talk, say anything. They kind of like understand that silence is God's music.
I want to accompany this interview. I want to make a book of quotes. You've said like 1,000 things that I could just make as quotes. Yeah. 4 years ago, you moved to Austin.
Yes.
And within the first few days, you joined Superfonicos?
The same day.
What a great start, Jaime. That's amazing. Joining this amazing band that's like taking off. That's the start I wanted. How did that happen, man?
I was still in Bogota, and I knew that I was moving to Austin, and I was playing bass with this band that I strongly recommend called Masilva. To that concert, this guy Andres came. He's on this like amazing band called Monareta, and this is the first time that I see him like in a long time. And I just like start talking to him, and he's like, "What are you up to?" And I was like, "I'm moving to Austin, and do you happen to know anybody in Austin that is a musician that I can connect with?" And he was like, "Actually, I know this guy called Andres Junca."
Okay.
And he just like connects us through Facebook. And then next day I just like text Andres, and I was like, "Hi, I'm Jaime and I'm from Colombia and I'm coming to Austin." And he was like, "As soon as you get to Austin, shoot me a text." Long story short, I traveled with my wife that is Austinite. That's why I'm in Austin, because my wife is from Austin. We traveled through the night. We land in Austin July the 14th, 2016 at like 9 a.m. And we were exhausted. So we took like a 6-hour nap. I wake up 3 p.m. and I text Andres with the phone number of my wife. He calls me and I was like, "Hey, hi, I'm Jaime. I'm from Colombia." And he's like, "Do you have any plan for 6 p.m. And I was like, no, I don't. And he was like, we're putting together this Colombian traditional music because the celebration of the independence was going to be on July 23rd.
Oh, wow. A
So
week or so later.
9 days after I was like arriving to Austin. And bring your gaitas, because whatever you know is going to help us. So I just got to Kiko Villamizar. I don't know if are aware of Kiko Villamizar.
No?
Kiko Villamizar is another amazing Colombian musician that is making music in Austin.
Okay.
Rehearsal was in his house, and I just like got there, and I was like, okay, and I just like bring the gaitas out. And one of the musicians that was there was Nicolas Sanchez, that is Superfonicos bass player. I think they just recorded something in Adrian Quesada's studio.
Okay.
Like in the spring, something like that. And we just I just brought my repertoire of like gaita music on the gaita, and they were like ecstatic about it. And,
cool.
And then right after the rehearsal, Nico came to me and he was like, hey, apart from this, I have this band called Superfonicos. Do you want to join us? And I was like, sure. And a week after, I was rehearsing with them.
Oh my God, all-time story. What a start and what a journey it's been. And I'm sorry that this year derailed what was just growing momentum for you guys. Wow, that's a beautiful story.
I feel so blessed.
Yeah.
So blessed that I just got to Austin, and I just in a matter of a week, I'm just playing with two great bands.
So much for having to go on Craigslist and busk on the street and play with lame people and find your way, which is, I think, the journey a lot of us go on.
Yes, totally.
This is a kind of a big question. Contrast and compare the music scene in Colombia and the music scene in Austin. Maybe some ways they're similar and some ways they're different.
What has been happening in Colombia is that because of the war, I don't know if you're a little aware of Colombian history. Colombia's been in war pretty much for the 200 years that we've been a country. And but it got really, really bad, like with the cocaine thing.
Yes.
Like the cocaine, the whole cocaine explosion, the whole cocaine market, and the fact that it's such an amazing business.
Yes.
It has just fueled the war. So it got really bad, let's say from the mid 80s
into the 90s
through the early 2000s.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And now it's really bad again, but it was really, really bad. So a lot of people from the countryside migrate to the cities. Pretty much on the same way that a lot of African Americans migrate from the South to the inner cities like Detroit and Chicago, New York.
Yes. Yes.
So wars are awful, but wars always create that kind of like human dynamic where like wonderful people with a lot of knowledge came from the countryside into like the center. That is pretty much Bogota is right in the center. And then that just like create like a wonderful musical scene starting on the mid 90s. That's when so
because of all the upheaval, people were moving and it brought people together, you're saying.
And music, it's always been like a way of survival for people that is moving, in the same way that it was like a way of survival for me the first year when I came from Colombia. Like music, if you're a good musician, music is always going to open doors. Music is always going to make hearts melt. Yes. Music is always going to bring unity and bring community, and that's what happened. Connectivity, yes. And there's a wonderful sense of oneness that you get and that's the beauty of, like, if three guys playing very good drums, they can start playing in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
The three drums, and in a matter of 5 minutes, there's gonna be people around.
Yep.
When music
I've lived it.
Yes, it's just like such a wonderful thing. So musicians from all the regions of Colombia got together in Bogota and in Cali and in Medellin. There are like the three main cities.
Yep.
and that make the music explode. So the musicianship that you find in Colombian cities, it's just like amazing. It's just like one of the things that I really want to start doing from Austin is to like bringing attention of the Austin community to the Colombian musicians, because that's the only my Colombian friends, that my musician Colombian friends are really having a hard time in Colombia right now.
Okay.
So I really want to bring the attention. And the thing is that a lot of them, they can record from home. They can, you know, there's like a really wonderful thing that is starting to happen between Bogota and Austin.
Cool.
Back and forth. There's like Austin musicians that are going to Bogota, and there are like Colombian musicians that have been like coming to Austin apart from me to like perform. So that if that's something that I can do for my friends in Colombia, I would love to do it. And they're like just like amazing musicians. So in that way, there's like a strong connection between the Austin scene and the Bogotan scene.
Totally. I hear that.
People in Austin, the audience in Austin is so awesome. Yeah. I mean, I just love Austin people. And that's
cool.
Whenever I just like go to stage and you say that, I'm just like, because I just love to perform for Austin people. I mean, I just love it. I mean, they
get it. They appreciate it.
And they don't judge. And if you're like doing it from a loving space, they just like get it and they just like enjoy it, and they come to you and they tell you. And I mean, Bogotan crowd is way, way harder.
Oh, is it? Interesting.
Oh, yes. It's so much harder.
Yeah.
And Bogota, it's up on the hills and it's cold. So a lot of the people has like a lot of coats on all the time. It can get, it's like London.
Harder to dance.
They don't dance. Bogotans don't dance.
Even to your music? It's so...
I mean, my wife, when we were in Bogota, she was like, what's going on with these people? They are dead. I mean, if this music would happening in Austin, people would be like, and that's when she told me like, or when we start thinking about moving to Austin, I was like, yes, let's do it. I mean, Austin has had like a really special place in my heart since I totally fell in love with Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course.
So Austin, it's been in my, and the way life works, it's so wonderful. I started like dating my wife in 2013 in Bogota, and I was like, so where are you from? She was like, I'm from Austin. And I was like, what? And then she started just like telling me all these like wonderful stories about Austin and how green Austin was, and Barton Springs and all the nature around, and the people and the music scene. And then I came in 2013 in October, and I was sold. Like, I want to be here. And as much as I love Bogota, I wouldn't change Austin for Bogota in 1 million times.
Wow.
What I really miss about Colombia is the countryside.
Oh, wow. I bet it's beautiful.
Yes, that's what I really miss. Like countryside, Colombia, it's just like, you know,
breathtaking.
Everything, the food, the people, the landscapes, the culture, everything. It's like awesome.
Oh, God. Yeah. I mean, I'm with you, man. You were talking about the audience being receptive. I think my favorite thing about the Austin music scene is the musicians. I feel so affirmed. I feel supported. I feel that musicians want everyone to succeed. I don't feel it's competitive or cutthroat. It's the industry people that get me down. It's the venues and the agents and the whole world that makes me sad, makes me want to gouge my eyes out. But I feel so supported by the community. You obviously had a great start. Would you agree with that? Do you feel that you've been embraced by the musician community?
Oh, yes. I mean, these guys from Grupo Fantasma, all of them, John Spies, Greg Goodman, Beto Martinez, all of them, they've been like big brothers to us. Mm-hmm. They've embraced us, and they've been huge fans of Colombian music for 20 years.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And a lot of the inspiration for them, it's been from like Colombian cumbia and Colombian drums. And so for them, when we came, it was like, that's it. These are the guys that are playing the drums the right way. They know the patterns. There's another amazing Colombian musician that is living in Austin for the last 2 years that is called Victor Cruz. He has this project I strongly recommend that is Nemegata. Nemegata, it's amazing. He's great. I met him years ago in New York. And then I'm the one that got him in touch with Kiko. And then in 2017, we toured around the States with Kiko and Victor and other amazing musicians from Colombia. And it's been so wonderful. I mean, especially that little tribe, the guys from Hard Proof, the guys from, all of them from Continental Drift, the guys from even the musicians for Bob Schneider. When we play Blues on the Green in 2018, I remember that we played and then they played, and then after they played, I came to them and I was like, guys, such an honor to open for you. And they were like, no, you guys didn't open for us. We closed for you.
That's really beautiful. That's
really cool. Beautiful, you know. And
that's a great thing to say.
That Blues on the Green was like a wonderful concert, and like, no, I mean, the amount of love that I felt from the Austin musician community is like, and I'm forever thankful and grateful with this city for what I mean. We could all die in next week, and
we might.
I'm gonna die happy.
Yeah, I'm glad that we got to connect before that. Man, I've been a fan of your group and of Grupo Fantasma for years, but a lot of these other Colombian musicians that are around Austin, I don't know, and I think a lot of the people that watch this interview might not know either. So when I put this out, I would love to include links to their music and try and share some of these people that you've recommended with the listeners.
Yes, and right now we need it. We need right now, pretty much that's the only way that we can make any kind of income with music. It's just like with people buying whatever we are doing from the net, you know.
Yes.
So if you could just like help us with that, we would be like in very thankful about it.
Yes. Okay, Jaime, it's been amazing. I want to let you go soon. I've loved everything we've talked about. You've given me a lot to think about and reflect on, man. I'm going to sit with this for a while, so thank you. I want to do something fun and end with a lightning round. So I got 5 questions for you. I want you to just say the first thing that comes to your mind, short answer.
Okay.
Is that cool?
Let's do it.
Okay, here we go. Lightning round. What is your number 1 favorite place to play in Austin?
Mohawk.
Outdoor?
Yes.
Number 2, if you were putting together your own Austin festival, who would you have on the bill?
Grupo Fantasma, Nemegata, Monichicha, and Hard Proof.
I'm coming. I'm in. Sounds fantastic. Okay. Tell us a short, funny story of something hilarious that happened to you on the road.
One time I was really about to pee my pants.
Okay.
So when we were like touring with with Kiko, so I was like, I'm peeing my pants, I'm dying. And then I don't know if it was Victor or any of the guys. He just like handed me like a Gatorade empty bottle. So I just like went to the back seat of the van and I just like pee on the bottle and like, you know, put the cup on. And
you did that?
Yes, man. I mean, certain point you just gotta do what you gotta do.
I've been on the road when it's been talked about and we've gotten close, but we've always made it to a rest stop and never actually done it. But you actually crossed the line and did it.
I crossed the line.
What artist, dead or alive, would you most like to share a bill with?
I don't want to think too much.
Nope.
Miles
Davis.
Yes.
Man, it's hard to even. What else can you say? There's no
I would be terrified to play in front of
all time.
Miles.
I assume you'd want to go first.
Of course.
No one wants to follow that set.
No. You don't want to follow that set.
Okay,
Last question for the lightning round. Finish this sentence. In the next 5 years, I will blank.
In the next 5 years, I will be playing a lot of music.
I hope so. In the next 5 minutes.
Yes.
I mean, it sounds like music is just in your bones, man.
You ain't stopping. You can't stop.
No, you can't.
Jaime Ospina, the lead singer of Superfonicos. I knew you were an amazing musician. Now I just think you're like a truth teller and a wisdom purveyor. I mean, Lord, my friend, the depth of your story and what you had to share was amazing. I think people are going to take as much from this as I have. I so appreciate you coming on. Thank you for your time. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you very much to all the people listening. Thank you very much for all the support that you've give to Superfonicos, and stay strong, stay healthy.